Oh!
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode. Today we'll be replacing the brake pads on this 2005 Acura TL. So let's go ahead, jack up the car, we'll remove the wheel, then we'll have clear access to the front brake pads. Now very often these lug nuts can be on very tightly. So what I'll be using is a 1/2-inch drive breaker bar and then a piece of pipe. And essentially what you want to do is place the piece of pipe over the breaker bar. That way you have a lot more leverage to remove these lug nuts. And here's our brake system. This is your caliper right here, the rotor, and of course you have one brake pad right here, and there's another one on the back. So what we need to do is you have 2 bolts holding on the caliper. Now in this vehicle, all that you need to do is remove this lower caliper bolt, and then the entire assembly swings up and you'll have clear access to the brake pads. Now this bolt back here happens to be a 14mm, and instead of hitting the wrench with your hand and bruising your hand on top of that, get yourself a hammer and just tap. Now before you slide this caliper up and out of the way, right here you have a brake line. Let me give you a better shot here. Right here is a brake line. What happens is, on this vehicle, not every car, but on this vehicle, when you start to slide the caliper up, it puts a lot of strain on the hose here. What you want to do is, there's a 12mm nut right here. Loosen it up so you can break free this brake line from the housing. That way when you slide up this caliper, there won't be any stress along the line. Alright, so now it's free and clear, and we can go ahead and slide up the caliper. And of course here are your brake pads. As you can see, these guys are very low. You can either push these out with your hand, or if you want to just tap it with a hammer and a flathead. Alright, that's your back brake pad. And sometimes they can be a little tight, but there you go. Now for this next step, we need to get access to the brake master cylinder. And that's right underneath this plastic cover right here. What you want to do is just remove the cover. Like so. Then place some rags, paper towels, old t-shirt, whatever you have, all around the master cylinder. You want to do this just in case if any brake fluid comes out. It's very corrosive brake fluid, and you don't want it eating up any paint, rubber hoses and such. And then once you finish that, we can move on to the next step. Now what we need to do is compress this piston back into the bore of the caliper. And to do that, get yourself a piece of wood, place it over the piston, then grab a C-clamp. Place that over the block of wood, and then slowly squeeze the piston back into the bore of the caliper. And as you do this, keep an eye on the fluid level at the master cylinder. Sometimes the fluid may overflow. And once it's compressed, just remove the C-clamp and the block of wood. Now before you reinstall your brake pads, go ahead and get yourself some brake grease. Very often when you purchase the pads, the brake pads from the auto parts store, they'll give you a little packet of brake grease. You want this stuff because you want to place it on the shims on the front and back, because don't forget the brake pad moves back and forth on these little shims here. So place it on the front shims and the back ones as well. Okay. Now if you wish, you can even, on the bottom of the caliper bracket here, you have a sliding pin, and also on the top as well. There's a sliding pin, and there's a rubber boot that protects the pin from corrosion, road grime, that sort of thing. These feel very, very good. You know, when the car gets quite old, very often these rubber boots will crack up and these pins will seize. If that's the case, remove them and apply the brake grease on the pins. In this case, they feel pretty good and everything is still enclosed. I'm not going to do that, but just check your vehicle, and if in your case they're very, very stubborn, the pins really aren't sliding very easily, go ahead, remove them, apply the brake grease on the pins, and then reinstall back onto the vehicle. Now once you wrap that up, go ahead and grab your new brake pads, and again, apply some grease on the back of the pad or the shim here. And then reinstall onto the vehicle. And same deal with the front here. A little bit of grease. And reinstall onto the vehicle. And then lower down your caliper like so, and reinstall the lower caliper nut. And just like before, go ahead, place the wrench over the caliper nut. And of course, don't forget you have your brake line attachment here. Now once you wrap that up, go ahead, place the wheel back onto the vehicle, do the exact same thing on the other side, and then we can tap the brakes and we'll be in good shape. And then as a last step, before you even start the car, just go ahead, press down on the brake pedal, and by 3-4 times, it should be nice and hard.